everybody. It's Emily Korsh. I'm your USARA social media captain, and I am here right now with Logan and Julia Roberts. They just competed in the Central Indiana Adventure Race in, I guess, Central Indiana. Julia and Logan, can you tell us where you are, what race you did, and just kind of how it went?
Sure. So we are in Central Indiana. I think it's
Prophetstown State Park's where the race was held.
Yes. And this was actually our very first race. We did the light, which was a 4-hour kind of an intro into the sport.
Yeah.
And while we had a blast, we were just talking a second ago about how we missed a cutoff. So this was our literal first time kind of jumping into the sport. We got started by watching the world's toughest.
The Eco Challenge.
Challenge
on Amazon Prime. I think, like most people there today, said that's how they got introduced to the sport as well. So it's super cool.
Really?
And so so we watched it, and before we had ever seen anyone actually finish it, we decided that we would just go ahead and sign up for one, that it was something that we would like to do. Maybe we should have watched the whole thing. But we signed up and we drove here. We're from Kentucky, and we came down and kind of jumped right in, or up.
Yeah, we went up.
Yeah. Up.
It's on the map. It's fine.
Yeah.
Hey, the map was an important part.
Right. Awesome. So you were at episode 5 or 6 or so of Eco Challenge Fiji, and you're like, I have to do this. I don't even need to finish the series. So how did you find a race? And then what kind of, were you already active in the outdoors, or what kind of parts of your previous life, now that you're an adventure racer, what part of that kind of made you find adventure racing interesting?
Yeah, we actually found all of the races, and we're looking at more from the website, the USARA website. And so there's a little calendar, and it told us when the closest.
Actually, funny thing, whenever we were watching Eco Challenge, we just started Googling where these things could be and stuff. And I found the USARA website, and I said, Jewel, there's an entire association with this. This is
no
legit.
Yeah.
We had no idea, so it was super neat. That's how we found our race.
Yes, and then we're super active. I'm an exercise physiologist by trade. He's a nurse. We don't do that now. We're actually we are self-employed, and we have a camper, and so we travel a ton with our 2 kiddos. And we like to hike, and we bought bikes specifically. I borrowed a bike. He bought a bike, just to see if we were going to like it. Yeah. So the bike portion was a little scary for me because I had not ridden a bike since 11.
Yeah.
But as far as we love hiking, we like to be outdoors. We have kayaks. In our camper, we have an inflatable kayak that we take the kids out on. And so we had some experience with paddling and hiking, not necessarily orienteering, but just hiking.
Right.
But we like to be active.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. So you found the CIA, you signed up, you made your way to the race, and then tell us how the race went. Did you get maps before the race, and then once the race director said go, how did it unfold?
Yeah, so we got our maps an hour and a half, I think, before the race. So just looking at it, trying to figure out what all these dots and lines on a map meant.
In the hotel room in this very spot is where we learned some orienteering.
Yeah, we learned how to orient the map here right before the race.
Awesome.
And
the morning of,
there.
Right?
Yes, the morning of. I've done a few, YouTube searches before then.
But he kept saying, what is it, Red Fred goes in the shed?
Yeah. Something like that. Is that the correct saying?
Yep, that is.
Perfect.
That's the red part of the north arrow. You need to orient that on your compass. You're well on your
first thing.
So we felt like we had it.
Yeah,
so we showed up. We got the map.
Yeah.
Continue.
Okay. And then our first thing was a bike, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the first thing was a bike, and it actually was a lot more on the road than we had anticipated. We thought it was going to be more, in the mountains or down trails, things like that in the state
On
park.
some muddy Jeep road somewhere.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So that's what I had envisioned. And it turns out we had to bike to the trails, which makes sense when you think about it. But we had to ride on the roads and navigate to the trails. And then there was some mountain biking involved.
So our seats are a little sore. It was a little more road riding than what we thought.
Hey, absolutely.
And then we got to the canoe part. So we were doing great on time right after that. Probably should have foregone the checkpoint on the canoe.
Yeah.
That took us a little bit more time.
Exactly. Well, I'm going to interrupt you.
Yeah.
So we do this actually for a living a lot of times, and she always talks. So now it's my turn.
Right. Okay.
So
we're ready.
Okay. So whenever I think our biggest thing we usually do, I guess we still do, obstacle course races like the Spartan, Tough Mudders, things like that. Mm-hmm. And we had talked about how you get to the obstacle, you do the obstacle, and then, you go on and follow the trail and finish the race. This is so much different because you really have to think and plan and decide, do I risk going out and getting this checkpoint and not making cutoff?
Yeah.
So it's just a lot different.
Yeah.
It's a different mindset.
Your brain's pretty much engaged in the race like the entire time. There's very few spots where you can just put your head down and push.
Right. Yeah, there's a way more, I think, mental aspect to this than like Spartans. Like we love those and they're so fun, but you don't really have to think. You just have to run and do. Where this, like, you have to think, 3 steps ahead.
Right.
Yep. Yeah, totally. And I agree. And we've, seen a lot of that overlap where we see obstacle course racers kind of think, adventure racing, I do that already. It's just a team. That's the only thing that's different. And they're really very two different sports and both like great. So like we have no
right, absolutely.
We want all you OCR people to come to us, and if adventure racers go to RCR, like that's great. So it's just cool to see kind of that overlap, and really the distinction between the two is, I think, a lot bigger than most people think from the beginning.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, you're exactly right. That's what we thought going into it. Well, we've done all these things. We can do this.
Right. Yeah. And actually, like, I kind of overestimated our ability to do adventure races because of that. Yeah. Because we've never not completed. Like, we've always done really well, even on longer ones, even on like, just different challenges. And so we're like, well, we can for sure. I said to him, I was like, we should have done the 12-hour. And like, both of us were sitting on this couch and we're like, we should not have done the 12
goodness
hours.
Right.
So
right.
It was just
that's
a different thing.
So sounds like you were on the canoe, you were paddling to get a checkpoint, you got it. Is that right? Mm-hmm. And then somewhere along the way back, you're like, oh boy, we might be running out of time. Is that
that's exactly it.
Last part of your race go?
Yeah. Well, actually, we were heading to the checkpoint, and I said, like, I kind of thought we needed to turn back, but we were still in the. I did.
Hey,
did y'all hear that?
She did. We should have listened to you.
I said, I think we should turn back. We're not going to make it.
Yeah.
And then again, we just kind of were very goal oriented, so we're like, oh, we're going to get it. We missed getting onto the boat ramp in time by 1 minute. Like.
So the official race ended as we were getting our canoe out of the water.
As we were like
that's what we missed our cutoff.
And so then we had to, it was one of the sadder bikes back.
Yeah.
Where like I was kind of I was like talking to him, I was like, are you just really sad? Like and we went back, and they were doing awards, and it was really cool to see like kind of the people who we saw on the canoes coming back, who finished first, second, and third. And so if we had just turned with them, we would have been fine. And so it's interesting. On the way home, I was back on your website, or on the way back to the hotel, and we found another race. In what day was
Alabama?
It's in Alabama, but it was soon, November. Like.
Oh yeah, is that the Oak Mountain Challenge?
Yes.
That one. Okay.
Yes. And so there's another 4 hour, because we really want to get a 4 hour completed under the cutoff.
Yeah.
And then I'm itching to do a longer one just because that's something that we've never experienced,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Well, I can say, you know, it's really like kind of up, and this is not really part of the interview, but I'm just gonna like maybe share a little advice.
Sure.
But because I felt the same way when I was starting, you know, I was like, okay, I want to do an 8-hour first, and then I want to do a 12, and then kind of want to work my way up. But there is so much to do in a 4-hour. It is really difficult to kind of get that entire course complete in the time limits. So, you know, like, don't be afraid of kind of stepping up to one of those longer distances, and just, you know, whatever you're comfortable with, but, you know, don't feel like you need to check a box first to be able to move up.
Right.
At least, you know, maybe do a 24-hour before you do a multi-day. Like, that's kind of a good idea.
Okay. Yeah.
That's a good idea.
in the like under 24-hour category, you know, there's a, you know, you might find it more fun to do kind of a longer race where you're, you know, you have a little bit more course to work with.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Or do you, like, you know, what's gonna work out. Okay, so one kind of a little bit of wrapping up question, but could you share maybe one thing that you were most nervous about before the race, and then did that actually happen during the race, and how did you deal with it?
You go first.
Oh.
Hold.
Oh,
We're getting
sorry.
a phone call.
My mom was calling.
Okay.
My mom was calling.
You can talk.
So, I mean, honestly, I think the thing that I was most worried about was not finishing in time. Like, that was my biggest fear.
Yeah.
I think just as humans, we fear like failure. And that's, you know, I'm very competitive. He kept telling me the whole time, like, we're not racing a person, we're racing the clock. And, you know, for me to not finish is like super disheartening because I've always been just a super competitive athlete. And, and, you know, it ended. And the next question that he asked was like, okay, would you do it again? And I was literally looking up the next race. So like, it did happen. Like, we didn't hit the cutoff.
Did not make it the time.
But it didn't make it any less enjoyable. It was still a blast. Like, it was very unknown. The sport was unknown to us. But we got there, and like, people were super helpful. They were very nice. Like, there were so many newbies that you didn't feel inept and you didn't feel like you couldn't do it. So, I mean, my biggest piece of advice is like, just to go out there and try.
She's very popular.
I'm so popular right now. So just get out there and try.
Yeah. Awesome. Logan, did you have kind of the same fears, or?
Yeah, so actually I did fear that, you know, we were not going to make our cutoff time. That was the big thing. But she asked me if I was nervous before, and I said, no, I've done all these things before. I can ride a bicycle, you know, I can paddle a canoe, and I can walk. So, I mean, I'm not nervous about anything. I just really want to make the cutoffs, and that's where that we failed.
Yeah. I will say that the bike, like, those trails were just so much fun. Like, I think we would love to come back to this area. If anyone watches this and they're thinking about like traveling to one, those bike trails were very fun.
I know. I wish I knew that.
Yeah, I think that's one of also my favorite things about adventure racing is, you know, you kind of like hear about, you're like, dang, I'm going to Prophetstown, Indiana for a race. Like, what's there? And then the race directors are like, oh, let me show you. And they find like the cool parts of the area and send us, you know, to go find checkpoints in places that most people don't really go.
Exactly.
So yeah, it's you get to see a lot of hidden gems that you just never anticipated. Okay, so I'm so stoked to hear you guys are like, had a great experience, already looking at the next race. It sounds like the Oak Mountain Challenge is like potentially on your calendar, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
yes.
Great. Do you, before, as we wrap up, do you have any shout outs, like any family members or any piece of gear or equipment that worked out really well for you today?
Family members.
Yeah, we have a lot.
My mom is watching our 2 kiddos, and it's just been like, she's such a blessing. But then we have 2 kids. They are 5 and 3, and we're hoping that they get to experience this sport with us as we get better and as they grow. And then any other family members?
My dad.
Oh,
He's
yes.
retired from the U.S. Army, and he is not the reason why, but like taught us how to orient a map. I know
Before
we talked about
before
YouTube
that
and all
hotel.
that, but we before the hotel, we
Yeah.
did a lot of practicing. But yeah, he was instrumental in me learning how to navigate. So
But also just like your desire to do stuff like this,
That's
I think.
true.
Like
That's
the
true, too.
adventurous spirit.
right,
Yeah.
And then gear-wise, we felt like we were sponsored by Columbia
we did.
today.
We did.
So
We bought everything Columbia.
so
Right?
if Columbia wants to actually sponsor us, that would be great.
Absolutely.
Right.
Just don't tell them we didn't finish.
Logan and
Yeah.
Julia right here.
Yeah.
That's right.
Awesome. Great. Well, that's all I have for today. So just thank you one more time for taking the time out of your post-race afternoon after the Central Indiana Adventure 4-hour adventure race in Prophetstown, Indiana. That was hosted by DINO Adventure Racing. So yeah, Logan and Julia, thank you so much. And hopefully we can see you at the next one.
All
Awesome.
right.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks, Emily.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.